You are nothing but a fraud in black skin." The words detonated across courtroom 4B. They did not slip out. They were delivered like a verdict. Judge Howard's voice carried over the oak benches and marble walls, meant for every juror, clerk, and bystander to hear. He wanted her humiliation public, stamped, undeniable. Every head turned toward the woman at the defense table. A black woman, seated still, her blouse plain, her slacks unadorned. No sparkle, no armor. To him, that meant weakness. To the room, that meant guilt. The court reporter's hands hesitated above the keys. A juror dropped his pen, the clatter ringing louder than it should have. Somewhere in the back, a spectator hissed, "Did he just say that?" But silence swallowed the outrage whole. She did not answer. She did not flinch. Her gaze stayed steady, her hands folded neatly on the polished wood. Except one finger moved. Tap, tap, tap. A rhythm that was too precise to be idle. Not nerves, not accident. Something else. Judge Howard leaned forward, eyes sharp with contempt. "This court will not be deceived by imposters, and when I am finished, everyone will know exactly what you are." Murmurs spread like cracks in glass. A few scoffed, some smirked, others lifted phones. Screens glowed in the dim light, already recording, already streaming. At the prosecution table, a young clerk squinted at her. His whisper carried further than he intended. "Wait. I know that face." His colleague's hand snapped at his sleeve, yanking him down before he could finish. The thought hung suspended in the stale air. From the gallery, another spectator raised a phone high. Across the glowing screen, a title appeared. "Live. Inside courtroom 4B. Something is happening." She lifted her eyes not to the bench, not to the gavel, but to the lens. Her lips parted. One word escaped. Quiet. Precise. A juror closest to her heard it and froze, breath caught in his chest, as though recognition had struck like lightning. The gavel slammed again. "All rise," the judge barked, though his voice shook just enough to betray that even he felt the shift. She did not move. She tapped her finger one last time. Tap. Silence. "Do." The gavel's echo had barely faded, but the tension inside courtroom 4B did not ease. It thickened, pressing down on every chest like a weight too heavy to bear. The black woman sat motionless, her finger no longer tapping the wood. Yet it was not silence. It was anticipation. Around her, unease was spreading like smoke through a closed room. One juror, the same one who had caught that whispered word, remained rigid, eyes darting from her to Judge Howard as if piecing together a memory he was not ready to admit. His breath came uneven, betraying something more than simple shock. At the prosecution table, the young clerk leaned toward his colleague again, his voice low but not low enough. "I have seen her before. Not here, not as a defendant. Somewhere else." His words trembled. His sleeve was yanked sharply by his superior, cutting the thought short, but the fragment of recognition lingered in the air like static. In the back, the glow of a live stream screen grew brighter. Comments began pouring in faster than the man holding the phone could read. She said something. "Look at that juror freeze. Who is she really?" What had started as a hearing was quickly becoming a public spectacle, unfiltered, uncontrolled. Judge Howard struck the gavel once more. "Silence. This proceeding will continue without disruption." His words were iron, but his tone cracked faintly, the way steel bends when pressure finds its weakness. The woman finally lifted her gaze, locking eyes with him. No outburst, no defiance, just a calm that unnerved him more than anger ever could. For a fleeting moment, something flickered in his expression. Recognition? Memory? Whatever it was, it rattled him. From the gallery, a student's voice broke the hush. "If she is who I think she is, then everything here is about to collapse." Heads turned toward her, but she shut her mouth instantly, as if speaking further would bring consequences she dared not face. Then it happened. A flash of light from the clerk's monitor. Words scrolled across the screen before he scrambled to close them. "External sync request. Justice Reform Foundation. Access pending." The letters burned into the sight of those who caught it. Whispers erupted. "Did that say foundation? What does she have to do with that?" Judge Howard slammed the gavel again, but the sound no longer silenced the crowd. If anything, it amplified the unrest. The woman turned her head toward the gallery, her lips shaping a single phrase, quiet but deliberate. Those closest heard it. Their faces paled. Phones rose higher, capturing every second. The live stream chat exploded. She said funding. Is she claiming the courtroom runs on her money? Howard stiffened. His eyes dropped to the edge of the defense table where, for the briefest moment, a black metallic card caught the light. It disappeared almost as quickly, but not before the rumor ignited. No one in the room could confirm what they had just seen. But the shadow of a larger truth had entered Courtroom 4B, and it would not leave. May 10. The whispers inside Courtroom 4B grew into a current that no gavel could contain. It was no longer a trial. It was an unraveling. The black woman sat steady, her gaze fixed on the judge, but the room itself had turned restless. People were no longer certain who was on trial and who was standing on borrowed ground. A clerk's voice cracked the tension once again. That word, she whispered, did anyone else hear it? His question drew eyes, but no answers. The juror who had heard it most clearly remained pale, his knuckles tight against the bench. He would not repeat it. Not yet. From the back row, the livestream feed caught another flash. Comments poured like wildfire. She said the court runs on her money. What foundation is this? Look at the judge's face, he knows. The narrative was slipping from the court's control and into the hands of the crowd. Then, a subtle motion. Her hand reached for the edge of the table. The black metallic card that had glinted before was now visible in full. It lay flat, engraved with a crest few recognized, but those who did could not breathe. One man in the gallery gasped audibly. That is not a credit card. That is an authorization badge. His voice cracked mid-sentence, but the damage was done. Phones lifted higher. Screens zoomed in. The logo shone for just a second longer before she covered it with her palm. Judge Howard stiffened. His robe shifted as he leaned forward. Put that away. This court will not be mocked. But his command sounded hollow, more plea than order. She tilted her head, eyes never leaving his. Calm, silent. But the pause itself was louder than words. The clerk's monitor flickered again. A message flashed briefly before vanishing. Audit sequence prepared, pending executive key. It disappeared too fast for most to read, but not for everyone. A student whispered, "Executive key? What does that mean?" The room crackled with unease. If the live stream had been a ripple before, it was now a flood. Thousands outside the courthouse typed furiously, speculating, demanding answers. And then she moved. Slow, deliberate. Her hand slid the metallic card across the table, letting it stop just at the edge, visible to the first row of jurors. Not spoken, not explained, just shown. The juror who had frozen earlier leaned back, sweat beading his forehead. "I have seen that symbol before," he whispered. It was in the funding files for the Justice Reform Foundation. A collective murmur surged through the room. The word foundation was no longer rumor. It was confirmation. Judge Howard's hand trembled as it hovered above the gavel. He did not strike. For the first time, his silence betrayed fear. The woman's lips curved, slightly not into a smile, but into certainty. She whispered once more, low enough for only the front row to hear. This time, the juror repeated it aloud, his voice trembling but clear enough for the gallery. She said, "Audit." The crowd erupted, phones lit like fireworks, the judge's face drained of color. But before anyone could ask what audit truly meant, the courtroom doors swung open with a loud creak. A suited figure stepped in, carrying a sealed envelope stamped with the same crest that glowed on the metallic card. The air shattered. No one knew what was inside. No one dared guess. The courtroom doors closed with a heavy thud as the suited man stepped fully inside. All eyes shifted to him. In his hands, the sealed envelope bore the same golden crest as the metallic card that rested beneath the defendant's palm. He moved without hesitation, walking the aisle between the gallery benches. Whispers chased him with every step. "Who is he? What is that envelope? Why does it have the same symbol?" He stopped at the defense table, bowed his head slightly, and placed the envelope in front of the black woman. He did not speak. He did not need to. The gesture alone was a declaration. The live stream captured everything. Comments flooded in. "That seal again? She controls more than they know." The judge looks terrified. Judge Howard's voice cracked as he demanded, "Explain yourself. Now." His gavel hovered uselessly, no longer striking with authority. The woman slid the envelope open with deliberate calm. Inside were sheets stamped with official insignias. She lifted one page high enough for the first row of jurors to see. Their eyes widened, scanning the bold letters at the top. Judicial Allocation Audit, prepared and authorized. Gasps broke out. A juror whispered, "It is real. It is not theater. She has authority." Phones zoomed closer. The live stream chat exploded. "She has audit papers. The court runs on her approval." Yet she did not read the document aloud. She folded it neatly, returned it to the envelope, and placed it back on the table. The power was revealed, but the scope remained hidden. Howard's face drained of color. His lips parted as if to object, but no words followed. The suited man who had delivered the envelope leaned closer, whispering into her ear. No one else could hear. The woman nodded once. A student in the gallery cried out, "She is not just connected to the foundation, she is directing it." Her voice trembled, but her claim spread like fire. The woman finally spoke clearly, her voice carrying across the room. "This courtroom is under review." Gasps rippled again, but before anyone could press her for meaning, the lights above flickered once, then steadied. The monitor at the clerk's desk lit up with a single message. "Audit sequence initiated. Countdown engaged." Said. The room froze. No one moved. No one understood what the countdown would bring. Said. The words glowed across the clerk's monitor in stark white letters. "Audit sequence initiated. Countdown engaged." A digital timer appeared beneath it, ticking down from 5 minutes. The entire courtroom froze. Then came the rush of voices, rising in a wave of panic. "What does that mean? Is this a drill? Why, 5 minutes?" Phones lifted higher, capturing every angle every second. The black woman did not flinch. She kept her hand resting over the metallic card, as though her very touch anchored the process unfolding. Her eyes swept the room, deliberate and steady, while the chaos built around her. Judge Howard's voice cracked as he barked, "Shut that down! End it now!" He pointed at the clerk's desk, but the clerk shook his head helplessly. "It is locked. I cannot override it." The suited man who had delivered the envelope leaned close to the judge, his tone clipped and cold. "This is no drill. It is binding." The gallery erupted again, half in disbelief, half in awe. The juror who had repeated her whispered word in part 3 now leaned forward, sweat dripping down his temple. "If this is real, then she has power over every dollar that keeps this court alive." His words sent a shockwave through the room. The live stream chat exploded. "There is a timer on the screen. Audit means shutdown. She is about to collapse the courtroom." Howard slammed his gavel, but the sound was drowned in the noise. His authority was slipping further with each passing second. Then the student in the gallery raised her voice again. 5 minutes until what?" she demanded, standing now. Her question hung in the air like a blade. No one could answer. Not yet. The woman's lips parted. Her voice was calm, unwavering. 5 minutes until truth. Gasps filled the chamber, but before anyone could demand clarity, the lights above flickered once more. A faint hum began beneath the floor, subtle but undeniable. The timer ticked lower. 4 minutes, 20 seconds. Phones caught everything. The audience online multiplied, and inside the courtroom, every eye was fixed on the woman who had turned a trial into a countdown. Tadarai. The countdown pulsed across the clerk's monitor, each second glowing in cold white against the dark screen. 4 minutes. 3 minutes and 52 seconds. The digits were not just numbers. They were the soundless march of inevitability. Every tick echoed in the minds of everyone present. The courtroom no longer held silence. It had fractured into chaos. Voices overlapped, some panicked, some furious, none certain. "What happens when it reaches 0? One juror asked aloud, his voice breaking. Another clutched his chest, muttering, "This cannot be real." From the gallery came shouts, "Is the system shutting down? Is this legal?" The once sacred solemnity of the chamber had dissolved into disorder. And yet, at the center of the storm, the black woman remained perfectly composed. She sat upright, her palm pressing firmly against the metallic card, her gaze unshaken. Her calm was not weakness. It was dominance. She waited for the clamor to rise high enough, then sliced through it with words sharper than the judge's gavel. "This is not theater," she declared. "This court operates on funding. Funding requires audits. Right now, your budget, your salaries, and your very authority are under review. The effect was immediate. Jurors gasped audibly. One let his pen fall, the clatter loud in the tension. Another leaned toward his neighbor, whispering fiercely, "If she is right," then when the timer hits 0, his sentence trailed into silence, unfinished, too terrifying to say aloud. Judge Howard leapt from his bench, his robe sweeping around him, his voice cracking with desperation. "You have no right to command this court." The statement rang hollow. The suited man who had delivered the envelope earlier lifted his hand calmly, stopping Howard mid-rant without a single word. His quiet authority was louder than the judge's fury. The live stream captured every angle. Comments scrolled in a frenzy. "She controls their money." The judge looks powerless. What happens when it ends? The trial was no longer confined to the wood-paneled chamber. It had become a national spectacle. The timer pressed on. 3 minutes, 20 seconds. From the gallery, the student who had spoken earlier shouted again, trembling but relentless. "If she can audit the court, does that mean she can shut it down?" The question rang like an accusation, piercing through the uproar. No one answered. Then, with deliberate slowness, the woman lifted her hand from the table. In her grasp, the black metallic card gleamed beneath the flickering light. Gasps broke out across the room. The golden crest was undeniable now. No longer rumor, no longer whispered speculation. She set it down in full view, directly in front of her, allowing every phone in the gallery to capture its reflection. Howard's hands shook visibly. His lips trembled, but the words never came. The woman leaned forward slightly, her tone low but steady. "I am doing what none of you expected. I am showing you who truly owns this room." The timer flashed red. 2 minutes, 4 seconds. Beneath the benches, a low mechanical hum deepened, vibrating through the wooden floor, rattling even the gavel on the judge's desk. The clerk's monitor flickered. A new line of text appeared beneath the countdown: Phase 2 authorization pending, awaiting executive key. The gallery erupted again. Phones tilted upward. The live stream chat exploded, and in that instant, every soul inside Courtroom 4B understood that the audit was not the end. It was only the beginning. The monitor pulsed again, the countdown blazing. 1 minute and 40 seconds. Beneath it, the words glowed harsher. Phase 2 authorization pending, awaiting executive key. The gallery erupted. Phase 2? What does that mean? Is there another level? Phones lifted higher, recording every flicker of the screen. The black woman did not flinch. She raised the metallic card higher, letting the crest gleam across the courtroom lights. The emblem reflected into dozens of lenses, captured forever in the live stream. Her voice was steady. Phase 2 requires acknowledgement, and it will not wait for permission. Howard's voice cracked, desperate. "Stop this now. This court does not recognize." His words collapsed as the suited man near the defense table placed a small black device onto the wood. It hummed, syncing with the card. The clerk's monitor responded instantly. "Executive key verified. Authorization accepted." The timer shifted. 1 minute and 20 seconds. A new line appeared. "Systems lockout engaged. Pending structural override." Gasps cut through the air. A juror gripped his chair so tightly his knuckles turned white. Another whispered, "Lockout? Does that mean—" He could not finish. The student in the gallery, voice trembling but loud, asked the question burning in everyone's mind. "What happens when it reaches 0? The woman's gaze swept the room, sharp as a blade. "When it reaches 0, you will learn who truly governs this house of law." The live stream chat detonated. She said, "Governs. She is above the court. Phase 2 is real." 1 minute. Howard slammed the gavel down, but the sound was swallowed by the electric hum that now filled the chamber. Lights flickered harder, papers quivered on desks. The courtroom felt less like a place of judgment and more like a chamber under siege. The woman slid the card across the table, stopping just inches from the clerk's monitor. The golden crest pulsed faintly, as if alive. She leaned forward, her words deliberate. "Phase 2 is the point of no return." 45 seconds. Every phone captured the scene. Every spectator held their breath. And then, without warning, the courtroom doors slammed shut from the inside, locks clanging into place. Howard spun toward the sound, his face ashen. "Who locked those doors?" No one answered. The suited man stepped forward, his eyes steady on the judge. "The audit decides who walks out when the timer ends." 30 seconds. The hum deepened. The crest glowed brighter, and the entire room realized whatever awaited them at 0 was no longer avoidable. The timer bled down the seconds. 25, 24. The screen pulsed with a violent glow. Systems lockout engaged, structural override imminent. The doors rattled against their new locks. No one moved toward them now. The sound of bolts grinding into place left no doubt they were trapped until the audit declared otherwise. Judge Howard's voice cracked with fury. "You will answer for this outrage." He pointed his finger at the black woman, spitting every word. Yet the tremor in his hand betrayed more fear than authority. The woman raised the metallic card higher. The golden crest reflected in the gavel, the desk, and the sea of camera phones capturing the moment. Her voice was low, calm, decisive. "This is the review you feared but never expected. At 0, the system decides who still holds legitimacy." Gasps broke out. One juror clutched his chest, his breath ragged. Another whispered urgently, "Does that mean some of us lose our seats?" His neighbor shook his head, too afraid to answer. The suited man who had delivered the envelope stepped closer. His words cut through the chaos. "Phase 2 does not measure innocence. It measures compliance." The gallery roared with speculation. "Compliance with what?" "She controls the metrics." "This is bigger than the trial." Phones shook as spectators streamed the chaos, their comments flashing. "She said legitimacy. This is not about guilt anymore. Phase 2 will remove them." The timer shrank to 15 seconds. The student in the gallery shouted again, her voice shrill with panic. "If it measures compliance, then who decides the standard?" The woman's eyes found hers. "The Foundation does." The room froze. The name landed like a hammer blow. Even Howard staggered back into his chair, gripping the armrest with both hands. The clerk's monitor pulsed again. A new message appeared beneath the countdown. Compliance threshold, 72%. Failure to meet will result in automatic dismissal. The jurors erupted in protest. Dismissal? Of what? Our positions? The gavel struck, but Howard's voice was drowned in the uproar. The woman leaned forward, her words cutting through. "When this clock ends, positions will collapse for those who never belonged." 10 seconds. The hum beneath the floor grew louder, vibrating the walls themselves. The ceiling lights flickered wildly, casting fractured shadows across terrified faces. 5 seconds. The gallery screamed questions, live stream feeds spiking as thousands joined by the second. The crest on the metallic card pulsed red, syncing with the timer. And then the monitor flashed one last message before the numbers reached 0. External authority connected, awaiting final directive. The courtroom gasped in unison. Who or what was the external authority? No one knew. The timer froze at 0. The entire room held its breath. For a moment, there was nothing but the heavy hum beneath the floor and the faint flicker of lights overhead. Then, the monitor came alive with a new message. External authority connected, directive pending. A low tone filled the chamber, not mechanical, not human, something in between. The gallery erupted. "What is that sound? Is it a recording? Is someone watching us?" Phones shook in trembling hands as the live stream chat exploded. External authority? She called the Foundation. "This is bigger than the judge." Judge Howard rose from his chair, his robe trembling with him. "This court does not submit to any external authority." His voice cracked, the defiance hollow. The black woman raised the metallic card higher, letting its crest shimmer under the fractured lights. Her voice was calm, steady, cutting through the chaos. "You already do. You just never admitted it." The suited man beside her placed a small device on the table. The monitor flickered again. This time, words appeared in larger, bolder letters. "Review in progress. Participants under compliance scan." Gasps echoed. Jurors clutched the sides of their seats, some leaning forward, others recoiling as if the words themselves carried weight. One whispered, "Scan? Are we being watched?" Another shook his head, sweat dripping down his temple. Howard slammed the gavel, but the sound was drowned out by a synthesized voice that emerged from the speakers above. It was low, resonant, undeniable. "Compliance under threshold. Review subject to dismissal." The gallery roared in panic. Dismissal of who? Is it the judge? The jurors? Phones recorded every face, every flicker of fear. The woman's gaze swept the room, her expression sharp and unyielding. "The Foundation measures alignment, not loyalty to me, but to truth. Some of you already know you do not meet the threshold. Howard's face drained of color. His lips trembled, but no words came. The monitor flickered once more. Directive finalization. Pending biometric key. All eyes turned back to the woman. Her hand pressed firmly on the metallic card. The golden crest pulsed, syncing with the message on the screen. She leaned forward, her words precise. "It is not finished until I choose who authorizes it." The gallery gasped as the implication sank in. And then, the monitor shifted again, lines of code scrolling faster than anyone could follow. At the bottom, one message remained. Executive biometric mismatch detected. Override required. The room froze. If her authority was being challenged, then who else had access? The message burned across the monitor in bold white. Executive biometric mismatch detected. Override required. For a heartbeat, the courtroom was silent. The humming under the floor deepened, vibrating the very benches where jurors Saturday. Then came the eruption. "What does mismatch mean?" one juror shouted. "Does it mean she is not the only one?" The gallery buzzed, panic swirling like a storm. Phones tilted upward, capturing every frantic whisper, every shifting glance. The live stream chat exploded. "Mismatch detected. There is another executive. Who holds the second key?" Judge Howard's face, pale moments ago, twisted into something darker. His voice cracked as he clung to the possibility. "You see, she is not legitimate. She is not the sole authority. This so-called audit is a farce." He pointed his finger at the black woman, spittle flying with his rage. "She cannot control what she does not own." The woman did not flinch. She kept the metallic card steady on the table, her sharp eyes locked on Howard. Her voice, calm but edged with steel, cut through his rant. "It does not say I am denied. It says there is more than one, and that terrifies you." The monitor flickered again. New text scrolled. "Secondary executive key registered. Presence required for final directive." Gasps filled the chamber. "Secondary executive?" the student cried from the gallery. "Who else could it be?" The suited man stepped forward, his tone precise. "The system recognizes dual authority, one to initiate, one to conclude." Howard's eyes lit with a desperate fire. "Then summon them. If she does not control it all, then her game is finished." His gavel slammed against the bench, but the sound no longer carried authority. It carried desperation. The black woman leaned closer, her words deliberate. "You mistake shared authority for weakness. It is the safeguard you were never supposed to see." Phones in the gallery shook as spectators tried to steady their hands. The live stream chat filled with speculation. Who is the second executive? Is it someone inside the courtroom? Is Howard involved? The monitor pulsed again. Locating secondary executive verification in progress. The entire courtroom froze. Jurors leaned forward, wide-eyed. The student covered her mouth, whispering, "It could be anyone." Howard's breathing quickened. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he tried to mask his unease. "It will expose her fraud," he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. The humming beneath the floor deepened. Lights flickered overhead, then steadied. The monitor displayed a new message. "Secondary executive biometric match. Inside premises." The words detonated like a bomb. Gasps, screams, and frantic whispers erupted all at once. Someone in the gallery shouted, "It is one of us!" Phones zoomed across faces, jurors turned to one another in disbelief, and Howard staggered back against his chair. The woman's expression sharpened, her lips curving slightly at the edges. She did not look surprised. She looked prepared. "Now you understand," she said quietly, her gaze sweeping across the room. "Power is never singular." The monitor beeped once more. "Secondary executive identity confirmation pending." Every eye locked on the glowing words. The tension was unbearable. Was it the suited man? A juror? Someone in the gallery? Howard slammed his gavel again, his voice trembling. "Who is it? Reveal yourself." But no one answered. The woman pressed her palm against the metallic card, her voice steady. "The system will decide, not you." The monitor began its sequence, scanning. Lines of code streamed across the screen, ending with a flashing message. "Final confirmation required, biometric reveal imminent." The hum grew louder, shaking the floor beneath their feet. The gallery erupted in panic, phones flying higher, the live stream chat a blur of frantic text. And then, just as the system prepared to announce the name, the monitor went black. The silence that followed was more terrifying than the noise had ever been. Vum. The monitor went black, plunging the courtroom into a silence so heavy it felt physical. The countdown had ended, but the revelation had been stolen away. The absence of sound was louder than the chaos that came before. Phones glowed in the darkness, their cameras struggling to capture what the room itself could not explain. The livestream chat erupted. They cut the feed. It was about to reveal. Who shut it down? Judge Howard seized the moment. His voice thundered, but it trembled with desperation. This proves it! The system is false, corrupted by her and her accomplices. There is no second executive. There never was. He pounded the gavel, the sharp cracks echoing across the chamber. But the woman did not rise. She remained seated, her metallic card glowing faintly under the flickering lights. Her calm was almost unbearable. When she finally spoke, her words cut deeper than Howard's shouts. The blackout does not erase the truth. It only delays its arrival. The suited man adjusted his tie, stepping closer to her side. His voice was low, but it carried. Blackouts do not occur by chance. Someone inside this room triggered it. Gasps broke out again. Heads swiveled across the courtroom, eyes scanning jurors, clerks, and spectators alike. The juror who had been sweating earlier now looked down at his hands, trembling. The student in the gallery whispered, "It could be anyone in here." Ooh. The monitor flickered back to life for just a second, showing fractured lines of code before collapsing again. At the bottom, one phrase lingered before disappearing. Identity fragment stored, pending restoration. The gallery erupted once more. It saved part of the name. It can still be recovered. Howard's face turned crimson. He pointed at the woman, his voice breaking. She planted this. She planted all of it. You are watching theater, not justice. There. But his words only deepened the divide. Phones zoomed in on his trembling hands, his sweat, his cracks of fear. The livestream comments turned vicious. He looks guilty. He is terrified of the reveal. The black woman CEO finally stood, her presence filling the chamber. She placed the metallic card flat on the table, letting the golden crest pulse visibly. The system stored enough. The truth will return. And when it does, none of you can deny it. Or D. The suited man leaned toward her ear, whispering something the microphones could not catch. She nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving Howard. And then, without warning, the courtroom lights cut out completely. Phones lit the chamber like stars, illuminating faces frozen between fear and revelation. Darkness consumed courtroom 4B. The only light came from dozens of phones glowing like scattered stars. The silence was heavy, every breath sharp, every eye fixed on the faint glow of the monitor. Then, with a sudden surge, the screen came back to life. White letters cut through the darkness. Identity restoration complete, secondary executive confirmed. The room gasped as the name appeared beneath it. Howard, Jonathan, Judicial Authority, Registered Secondary Executive. Every head turned toward the bench. Judge Howard staggered back as if struck, his face drained of blood. His gavel slipped from his grasp, clattering onto the floor. The gallery erupted. It is him! The judge was the second executive all along. Phones shook wildly, comments exploding. Howard exposed. He tried to hide it. He blacked out the system. The black woman CEO stepped forward, her metallic card pulsing with light. Her voice was steady, carrying the weight of truth. You see now why he fought so hard. The system was never against me. It was against corruption inside its own walls. He triggered the blackout because he knew his name would appear. Howard tried to speak, but his voice cracked. I never authorized this. I never... His words collapsed into silence as the suited man stepped forward, placing the sealed envelope on the judge's desk. The crest glowed under the flickering lights. The Foundation does not lie, the man said. His tone was cold, final. The monitor displayed one last directive. Secondary executive, non-compliant. Authority revoked. Immediate dismissal executed. Gasps echoed. The locks on the doors clicked open, as if the building itself had passed judgment. Howard slumped into his chair, powerless. The gavel lay on the floor, forgotten. Phones captured every angle, streaming his downfall live to thousands. The woman lifted the metallic card high, its golden crest shining brighter than ever. The audit was never about me, she said. It was about who truly deserves the power to govern. Zizi, the jurors sat frozen. The gallery erupted in cheers and gasps, and the live stream chat flooded with disbelief and awe. The woman turned toward the cameras, her voice calm but commanding. Truth is not loud, truth is patient, and it always arrives. The monitor went dark. The audit was complete. Courtroom 4B would never be the same.